Hello, welcome back to Tactical Tuesday with Johnny Tiger on May 18, 2021. Last Survival Saturday, I talked to you guys about the 5 different defensive maneuvers that we practice when we talk about protecting ourselves. Now, when it comes to the first few, evasion, redirecting, and dumping, as I mentioned, those were the preferred method. Of course, you always want to evade if possible, redirect if not, and dump off excess energy if the formal two failed. And then we talked about blocking and tanking. Now, tanking is the least preferred method, but it is not very hard to get good at. It is, how shall we say, arduous, tedious, but not hard. If you want to be that person who can take a lot of hits, who can take a lot of hits, basically you just hit yourself a lot and then take a lot of calcium and supplement to recover. Eventually, your body triggers that evolutionary change. Your bone get denser, your muscles get denser, your nerve endings get more dull, and it stops sending pain signals to your head when you get hit. But this episode, I want to talk about blocking because blocking is one of those things that you learn about it in a lot of martial arts, taekwondo, karate, yes, even Krav Maga. And I have mentioned this before. Krav Maga, we do the 360-degree block, which is often being pointed out as being very impractical. It's just a silly kind of technique. I've also mentioned that the technique makes a lot more sense when you realize, when you understand that a lot of us in Krav Maga, we spend hours, days, months, years conditioning the heck out of our arm. So when we say 360-degree block, we actually mean 360-degree smash. Our goal is not to repel the attack. Our goal is to meet the offending arm or leg with our own forearm or elbow or wrist and break them in the process. In other words, it's taking a page out of karate styles such as Shotokan. We condition our body enough so we are combining both a block and a tank in the 360 defense. Is it still a silly technique? Yes. Yes, as a Krav Maga guy, I'm going to tell you, yeah, 360 defense is largely very silly. Um, Almost never work because it requires you to have a set, a predetermined set of movements. It requires you have an understanding of the attack that is coming. If it's a hook, you go this way. If it's a coming down at you, you go this way. Then if it's coming towards your belly, then it goes down this way. And if it's coming from behind or beside, and you spin around and block. So basically, wherever the attack comes, you swing your forearm in the direction. Doesn't matter if it's a stick or a knife or a fist or a leg. You swing your forearm to meet it. Obviously, if it's a knife, then you don't want to meet the knife with your forearm. You want to meet the hand holding the knife. But the problem with a block like that is usually it relies on you knowing which direction the attack is going to go. Because if you look at how a lot of Krav Maga student practice, it's like, let's say I'm the attacker and I hold a sword or a knife, I say we already say okay, no high stabs. Usually I don't hold something this big. Usually it's let me grab something more uh, genuine, something like this, regular tonto knife. You already predetermined that it's not going to come from high angles. It's not going to be 1 o'clock. It's not going to be 11 o'clock. It's not going to be 12 o'clock. You already determined it's going to be a low line stab, and usually stab with large swings. So when you see people practice that, that's problematic because in real life, it never goes like that. In real life, an attacker charging in, the knife is everywhere, repeatedly, really quick. Doesn't come in the same direction every time. So you might be able to block the first one, but you might not. You might miss the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. Okay, this is why it doesn't really work. But the principle is there. Whatever coming at me, I want to smash it out of the way with my forearm because I am counting on my own forearm, my own arm, my own legs being in a lot better condition than the attacker. But even that is a gamble. But that is not strictly a Krav Maga situation, as I mentioned before. In fact, of all the martial arts that teach you how to block, most, if not all, the block are crap combat techniques. They're crap combat techniques. And the only reason I say most and not all, because there are people out there who are really, really good at blocking. That it's almost impossible to land a hit on them because they can block almost every hit, no matter how you do it. But if you look at these people, they are good not because of their block. They're good because they just have such good mastery of what they're doing. They have such mastery of their own body and they have enough experience to read what you're going to do before you do it. In other words, they don't have to block. If they just get out of the way, if they just focus on getting out of the way, they can do it every time too. It's not their block that's successful. It's them being good martial artists, master martial artists that's successful. Anything they do would be perfect. Just like, when we get into a topic of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is it a good self-defense? And as I pointed out before, well, yeah, if you are one of the Gracie families, then yes, it's a good self-defense. It's great self-defense. But until you reach that level of mastery, probably not so much. Now, I stress the word combat technique. I said blocking the crap combat technique. Why? Because it is a good training technique. It's a good training tool. Because it allows you to understand the mechanic, what it takes for force to go against force. It allows you to understand what how you should angle your arm so it's not a sudden impact. So the other offending arm will glide off of yours. It teaches you how to move your body in the best way possible so you can get out of the way of being harmed. And it also teaches you how to counter and how to attack. Now, some people say, what's the difference between combat technique and training technique? Isn't it just technique? If it's a crap technique, isn't it just a crap technique? No. Let me use the example of the 1-inch punch. What is the 1-inch punch? Let me show you guys. I don't know if you guys can see. I hope let me stand this way so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay? 1-inch punch is when I'm not swinging from my face to the person's face. I'm not swinging from my face to their head. I'm not swinging from me to them. I don't have a lot of distance to work. 1-inch punch is when my fist is only like an inch away from the person, and I can generate enough power to knock them back or knock them down without pulling back previously, like that. It's that explosive power being able to generate it within very little distance. It doesn't require a lot of momentum. Okay? And in 1 inch punch, you can do both the long arm out like this version, or you can do the short arm close by my side version. Both way, I can generate a lot of power. Look cool on camera. Look great on stage. Put a person in my way. Put a let a person stand still. I can do my 1 inch punch. Let a person hold a stack of board in front of my finger. I can do a 1 inch punch. No problem. I can generate a lot of force that way. But it's a crap combat technique. Why? I spent over 2 years working on my 1 inch punch. It took me 2 years to get really, really good at it. But never, never once did it work for me in sparring or in a fight. Why? Why doesn't it work in the sparring or in a fight? Because in sparring, usually you're wearing gloves, bulky boxing gloves, MMA gloves, which makes your 1 inch punch just very silly. But more so, because you never fight like that. There's never a situation in a fight unless you are trying to sucker punch somebody, which means it's not self-defense, which means you're assaulting somebody, you go to jail or you get sued for that. But in a strictly legal self-defense or tournament kind of setting, there's never a situation where I would have my hand 1 inch away from the person without hitting them, and I hit them from 1 inch away like that. There's never a kind of situation that requires that. And most of the time, the person you're fighting is not standing still for you to hit them with that 1 inch punch. So, which means if I'm moving into the person and I'm going to do a 1 inch punch at close distance, all it takes is them moving out of the way. My 1 inch punch just glide right past them. It doesn't take that much. Okay, so it's a crap combat technique, but it's a fantastic training tool. Why? Because it shows you how to generate power without needing momentum. It shows you the body mechanic needed to output a lot of force. In another word, even though the 1 inch punch itself never worked in a real fight, for me, okay, I'm just going to preface that by saying for me, yeah, maybe there's some master out there that can make it work for real. I can never get it to work in a real fight. Even though the 1 inch punch never worked for me in a real fight, the benefit I gain from it does, which is, think about it. If I can generate that much force within an inch of space, what what would I be able to do when I actually throw a real punch with a foot or a foot and a half of distance? Then you can take that 1 inch punch and magnify it by 12 times, 15 times. And it makes my punch a lot harder than if I didn't practice the 1 inch punch. So that means it's a bad combat technique, but it's a perfectly fine training technique because it teaches me how to hit hard. Same with blocking. I remember once upon a time, I had this little debate with another sensei, with another martial art trainer. He asked me, he said, what is your favorite uh, types of technique when you're fighting? I say my favorite types of techniques are the type of techniques that allow me to block and attack at the same time. Me being a Krav Maga guy, that is what we do. He very vehemently said to me, he said, no, that doesn't work. That's nonsense. You either block or you attack. You don't half-ass it by blocking and attacking at the same time. Doesn't work. I don't know where he got his schooling or training. Uh, I'm not going to stand here and talk too much bad things about another instructor. Whatever. Maybe that's what he was taught. But it's definitely possible to block and attack at the same time. And more often than not, these blocks we have been taught they are more useful as a preface to an attack than an actual block. Today I'm going to show you guys three of the most basic blocks that I was taught that on the surface, I'm going to tell you guys why they look really silly and why they don't work as blocks, but why they're super useful all the same, rather than block as attacking or counter-attacking patterns. We already talked about the Krav Maga 360 uh, 360 defense. I call it the 360 smash, uh, but that's not included in this three. I'm going to show you guys. The first out of the three, karate, taekwondo, basically the same. I mean, the stance might be different. The hand position might be slightly different, but it's basically the same principle. It's a low line block. An attack coming at you at around groin, belly button level, maybe a low punch, or maybe a kick, or maybe a stab with a knife, or maybe a baseball bat swinging horizontally across at your waist or at your leg. The low line attack taught by many martial arts is you take your arm and you sweep it down and across. You take your arm and sweep it down and across. Like that. Huh? Like you're brushing something away with your arm. Okay? Now, why is that silly and why doesn't it work? Because it look impressive. It work when you are practicing with a partner. When you say to your partner, punch me in the stomach, and then your partner go, hooey, hooey. Eh? What's wrong with that kind of punch? It's obvious there's no intention behind it. And even if they have intention, they're not going all out. They're not going all out because they know the moment your arm crash into their arm, it hurts a lot. So psychologically, they're already holding back. Okay? If you really want to tell people to help you test if this low line block work, then tell them attack me, kick, punch, whatever, whenever you want. Whenever you want. It doesn't have to be now. Just anytime during class, attack me. Come up to me and throw a kick. Come up to me and throw a knee. Eh? If you really trust this low line block is going to work, test it that way. I bet you, if the person really try to hit you, it's going to fail. Especially if it's a weapon. If someone swing a stick or a knife at you, you don't want to do this with your arm because it's going to come right through your arm. Huh? So it's a lousy block. It's a lousy block. But where this block translate into much better things is when you learn to use this as a way to build up for your own low line attack. Let me show you guys how. Again, I'm going to stand sideways. Just pretend a dummy or a bruise. Sorry, Bruce. Just pretend Bruce is facing me. I don't want to try to turn him. He's really heavy, and he's not very new. So if I try to muscle him around, he's going to break, uh, because he's not very firmly attached to his base anymore. So just assume he's facing me. I'm actually facing his side, but no, just so you guys can see. Okay, assuming I'm fighting someone face to face, and I want to go low, either to grab them around the leg, or to hit them in the groin, or to lock out their ankle in some kind of fancy leg lock. One of the problems that we see is people, when they drop low, they expose their face. And what's going to happen if you find someone very experienced is the moment you duck down, their leg come up to meet your head, and you get knocked out, right? So this is where our low line block come in very, very handy. Where, let's say I'm exchanging punches with a target, I'm exchanging punches, and suddenly I want to go in low. I'm not going to just drop low like this, okay? Because I risk getting my head kicked. So rather than dropping my head, I'm going to do a sudden low line block, blocking the hip. You can see what happened to Bruce. This is a dummy that weighs over 200 pounds. Okay, this is a dummy that weighs over 200 pounds. The moment I drop my weight and I low line block him on his hip, he almost tipped over. That works on a real person too. Okay, the moment I duck in, I low line check the hip, the leg with my blocking arm. So rather than a block, I'm using this to lead my low line attack to block out their leg. This way, they can't kick me. Okay? Try it sometime. Try having your partner put their forearm across your thigh, across your hip, groin area. Try to kick them. You can't. Doesn't work. Once there's a bar across your hip like that, you can't. All your leg technique go out the window. Right? So I neutralize any kind of threat to from the leg by barring with my low line block. Of course, my other hand stay up here just so they don't grab my head. The second one, I'm going to show you guys, we are working our way up. The second one is a midline block. Midline block, again, look different depending on the style. Taekwondo, sometimes they go like this, one arm blocking chest to rib cage, the other arm go rib cage to groin, and spread open like this. Sometimes karate guys, we do this, like drawing a sword, okay? One arm go across, protecting the middle, and the other arm come out across, knocking, blocking whatever attack that's coming in. Why is it silly? Because it takes two arms. It takes two arms. Any kind of block that takes two arms to complete, leaving your head exposed is silly. Okay, your chest can take a lot more beating. Your stomach can take a lot more beating than your face. So to do a block like this, leaving your face exposed is silly, right? To do a block like this, both block using both arms in the midline, leaving your head, your face exposed, silly. Right? These are lousy blocks. Would they work? Well, honestly, if a person is going to start pummeling me on the body and I cross my arm like that, I just keep my arm crossed. Because if I keep my arm crossed, you can't hit anything vital. Why would I bother flaring out like that? Right? Why was it designed like that? Because a lot of these moves were designed back then when people have to draw a sword. Now, when you are wearing a sword, this makes a lot more sense. But when you're fighting bare hand, it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. But again, it doesn't mean it's a useless technique because learning how to generate your power from just flaring your arm, opening your arm to the side like that. Allow you to do one of my personal favorite, uh, self-defense attack, which is while you're talking to someone and someone who's making threatening gestures, you can just cross your arm like this. And the moment the person make a threatening gesture towards you, boom, your arm just flares right out. Your arm come right out. And this is no longer a karate block. Now it's an attack. I use this folding arm gesture to allow my arm to whip out suddenly. There's no telegraphing. The backhand, 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 face groin. Right? I don't even have to go into a fight stand. Yeah? So this is another instance where these blocks, the seemingly useless, silly blocks, turn into very good attack techniques. Last but not least, the famous high block. Teach this in Aikido, Karate, Taekwondo. When someone hoi make a chop at your head, when someone punch at your head, you suddenly shoot your arm up diagonally and hoi, huh? Let the arm bounce off of yours or slide down the slope of your arm. Okay? Why is it silly? Because when you shoot your arm up like that, you leave your face exposed. You might have deflected that one hand, but now the other hand comes right at your face. Also, this only works if the person is not significantly stronger or heavier than you. If a 100-pound person tries to defend against a 200-pound person, and let's say a 200-pound person throw an overhead hammer fist down, that 100-pound person can block like this all they want. It's not going to work. They're going to get demolished. Too much weight, too much advantage on the other side. Okay? So this is a kind of block that only work if the person is roughly the same size as you, not have too much mass advantage, on or and on. I just came up with a new English word, on, uh, or and you have an advantage of knowing the attack is coming. If you know the attack is coming, then any kind of block is easy. But again, this technique easily translates into something much more. Let me show you again on the dummy. Say I'm fighting someone. I'm trading punches, and I need to get this over with, especially for me as a blind person. One of the things I need to do is close the distance and grab them. Right? If I just charge in with arms open, I leave my head up to all kind of punishment. If I keep my arms in front of my face, like standard MMA boxing scenario, I charge in. If I miss my target, I leave my whole side open to punches and kicks. It's a bad idea. So for me to go enter on any kind of a chance for me to do some meaningful striking is to be able to drive them back, drive them off balance, which means when I burst in, I use this high block. My arms shoot up at a diagonal right at their face and throat. Okay, if I hit, this will drive them back. If I miss, this will force them to duck. Right? Because this is a very aggressive motion coming at your face. This will force them to either duck down or walk away, move away. In any case, very unlikely they'll be thinking about hitting me when I'm entering like this. If I go in by shooting my arm forward and up, like this, and I make any kind of contact, then immediately I could drop my arm, pull them in knee. Right? I'm in this knee in elbow range already just by leading with this high block. So again, I'm not going to stand here and trust this low block, this mid block, this high block to protect me from attack. I use them as ways to enter into a counter offensive, allow me to do some damage on my own. Thank you for checking out today's Tactical Tuesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Wisdom Wednesday. For now, have a good night.